In C#, there are many types of applications that you could write for the .NET framework. Here are three of the most common application types. In the first column, we see a comparison of the Windows application, and to the right of that is the web application and XML web services. Now, there are a lot of different types of applications that you can write in C#, but these are three of the most common. A Windows application is really designed to run on the desktop, and its basic functionality is to provide a graphical user interface. It also provides client-side functionality, like client-side validation, validating user input, for example. Now notice to the right, web applications and XML web services both run on the web server. They run on IIS. But notice there is a similarity between a Windows application and a web application. A web application is also designed to generate a graphical user interface. The difference is that this application runs on the desktop. This type of application runs on the server. And when this application is processed, it actually generates a dynamic graphical user interface. Now, what happens here is on the web server, I process the web application, and it actually generates a response back down to the client. In terms of a web application, a common client might be a browser. So a web application is processed on the server and sends back down to the client, in this case a browser, a graphical user interface. A web service, on the other hand, is really not built to create a graphical user interface. A web service is really a component that's shared across internet and intranet applications. The key word here is component. That commonly means an object that has no GUI interface. So a web service provides functionality in an internet or intranet environment, but it doesn't provide any kind of GUI interface. It's commonly created to share data or to move data across one point to another in the internet or intranet environment. All three application types have different namespaces that they would use. For a Windows application, system.windows.forms, that namespace is very common. This defines the set of GUI interface objects that you would use in a Windows application. For example, the form itself, a list box, a text box, a label, menu controls, and the like. You would also use system.drawing. In the web world, for a web application or a web service, you would use the namespace called system.web. But notice in a web application, you would use a namespace called system.web.ui for user interface, where in an XML web service, you would use a namespace called system.web.services. The signature class inside these three different types of applications is a very different type of class. A form file is the signature class file for a Windows application. A form type class is really used to generate a GUI interface. Web form classes have this file extension, ASPX. Web form classes are really created to do much the same that a form does in a Windows application. It provides the GUI interface. But remember, this file type gets processed on the IIS server. The last type of signature file is a signature file that you'd find in a web service. It's called an ASMX file, and there's no GUI interface attached to this type of class file. This file is meant to create methods, because a web service is really just a way of creating remote method calls. Methods that you can call between applications on an internet or intranet environment. There are many types of applications that you can write in C#. Three of those types of applications are Windows applications, which run on a desktop, and two flavors of web applications that run on an IIS server. One is called the web application that generates a GUI interface for the client. The other is called an XML web service, which is basically a component that can be called in an intranet or internet environment.